Welcome, everyone, to the latest edition of the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show, part of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show family. Along with Zach Meisel, I'm Adam the Bull, and we are down to the home stretch of the season, Zach. 24 days to go, and you did not go to L.A. Are you sad that you will not be getting, I don't know, California sun? I guess we got plenty of sun here this year, although today it's supposed to rain. Are you sad to not be in L.A. right now?
No, I'm not. The little energy boost from relaxing at home is nice. Plus, it's week. Don't tell anybody. It's week 1 in the NFL season. I'm really jazzed to watch football all weekend.
Whoa.
Is that okay?
Where is that coming from? I didn't even know football was starting. Did you
I feel
watch
like,
the Ravens and the Chiefs last night?
of course,
Good game.
I have listened to nothing but NFL fantasy gambling
Oh, yeah.
predictions podcasts for like the last 3 weeks. So it's nice to have this because it like resets my brain a little bit. I feel like I'm supposed to come on here and give my best bet for the assistant coach of the year in the NFL, and instead we
No.
can talk some Guardians.
You know what? Before we do, one last football thing, though. How do you feel like you did in your first foray into the UCSS fantasy draft?
I feel pretty good. I will say McNuggets and I were texting back and forth because we kept taking each other's players in the snake draft when he was one ahead of me. So I feel like if you combined our teams, we'd destroy the league. Yeah. I like what I did. It's a little weird. Why do we do 2 quarterbacks? That threw me off.
I know. That was my fault. I should have warned you further in advance that it's 2 quarterbacks. I told you, I think, like a minute before we started. I have got, I do 2 quarterbacks in all my leagues. I don't like 1 quarterback leagues because I think it makes quarterbacks too not valuable. So that's why I've always pushed for that. But so that's it.
I think I have a really good team, but I think I've got some potential drama. I've got Jamar Chase, like Devontae Adams will certainly be unhappy by like week 6.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I predicted Jamar Chase would sign last night, but he didn't. So I don't know if he's going to play. He's been practicing this week. We shall see.
Yeah. But all right. I know everybody loves hearing about people talk about their fantasy.
Yeah. I think your team's pretty good, but we'll see. Everybody thinks their team's good, or most people do. And then, the season goes and things don't go the way you expect it. Things have not gone the way we've expected for the Guardians for most of this season. I think most of us, but your expectations change. I think there can't be a person on the planet that if you would have told them before the season, and this includes Chris Antonetti, Mike Chernoff, that if you would have told them that with 22 games to go in the season, the Guardians would be 80-60, everybody would have been thrilled. And I think people are back to being excited again because they've played well over the last week. But it's certainly been a different season than we expected. They played great for a while. They played poor baseball for a month. We talked on Monday because they had beaten the Pirates 2 out of 3. And even though they played that one bad game on Saturday, we were all feeling better about the team. They had won 3 of 4 overall, salvaging that last Royal game. Then they take 2 out of 3 from the Royals, off day yesterday. So now that they've won 5 of their last 7, what is your temperature on the Guardians right now, heading into probably their toughest opponent? Because probably the Dodgers are playing, even though half their rotation's hurt. They're still playing as good, if not better, than anybody. Houston, a couple of the teams, but they're as good as any team in baseball. So, what's your feeling for the team right now? Are you feeling like they're back to where they were? Not quite. What? How do you feel?
That's a loaded question.
It is,
and I can't wait to answer it on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardian Show.
That's a good job out of you. I forgot about the intro. Let's go. To play the intro. That's the second time you've had to pick me up on that. That's a good job.
It's interesting you say that, how they have exceeded everyone's expectations, even internally. Like every team keeps their own projections of individuals, of the team. And I know I talked to a few different front office people from various teams, and the consensus on the Guardians back in March was about where they're at in terms of the win total. I think they were projected by most teams to win about 80 games,
Right.
and they're here with 3.5 weeks to play in the regular
Yep.
season. So it's important not to lose sight of that. But as we've talked about, expectations change as the season
Right.
evolves. And when you get off to a 51-26 start, that just means you've bought yourself time and resources, I guess, um to exceed your expectations. Like it's that doesn't mean if you win 81 games at that point that it's a success.
Sure.
Expectations can change. So I think it was a critical week. I think they knocked it out of the park. They did exactly what they needed to do. We talked about it the other day. They took away the Royals' best last chance
Yep.
to make up a bunch of ground in the division. And you don't have the tiebreaker with them. You do over the Twins. So you look at the standings, and with 22 to play, you've got a 4-game lead on the Twins, but that's really 5 because of the tiebreaker. And you've got a
Right.
4.5-game lead on the Royals. It's essentially 5 because you're 5 up on them in the loss column. That's a pretty good place to be. And it's an even better place to be because those two teams play each other this weekend in
That's right.
Kansas City. So if you can just survive the Dodgers, if you can win
Yep.
a game, if you win 2 or 3, congrats, pop champagne.
Mm-hmm.
If you can win 1, then I mean, whatever happens this weekend in Kansas City is going to help the Guardians, I think, one way or the other. Like either one team will be pretty much out of the race, or they'll beat up on each other, so no one will gain too much ground as long as you don't get swept, right?
If as a guard, it's a great point. You're right, and I'll follow up on that by saying, and I'm thinking about this. As a Guardians fan, what are you rooting for in that series? Because essentially they're tied, as you said. The Royals are half a game behind the Twins, one in the loss column, but you have the tiebreaker with the Twins. You don't with the Royals, but you don't play the Royals anymore. You do play the Twins, and you can handle your own business against the Twins. However, if you play poorly in that Twins series, then if they swept the Royals or whatever, like if one team sweeps the other, the team that got swept is done.
Yeah, I think the first key is don't get swept in LA.
Right. Yes.
Just win a game.
Yeah.
And I think the second, like the best case scenario, I've been thinking about this a lot, and I'm
Yeah.
still not confident about this. I think you want the Royals to win 2 of 3 because you're done with them. The Twins, you play 4 times in about a week and a half, and you don't want that series to have, like, you don't want the Twins to come in here thinking, well, if we sweep, we're tied for the division. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
put it out of reach if you can.
Yeah.
Especially with that tiebreaker. So I think that's what would be the best case scenario. Um,
I'm kind of torn on it, Zach, because
yeah,
part of me is like, well, you've played well against the Twins this year. You could handle your own business against the Twins. So I'm not rooting for a sweep because I don't want the Twins to get hot. But I kind of like that the Royals feel like they're teetering right now because ever since that loss to the Guardians in that last game of that series, they've been a disaster. And obviously they did win the last game against the Guardians this past Wednesday, and maybe that'll turn them around. Who knows? But they're a team that doesn't have playoff experience, or at least most of their players don't. And so I part of me feels like let the Twins put the Royals away, and then we, the Guardians, can handle the Twins ourselves and put
the
them
only wrinkle I'd throw in there is that
Yeah.
the Royals go from hosting the Twins this weekend to going to Yankee Stadium Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
So theoretically, like the best case scenario for the Guardians is maybe the Royals win 2 of 3 this weekend and then go to Yankee Stadium and get swept.
Right.
Or lose that series.
Meanwhile, the Guardians win at least one against the Dodgers and then sweep the White Sox. And then who do the Twins play?
Tough for them to do lately.
Yeah.
Um,
The Twins, after the Royals, they play the Angels. So
yeah, I think the Twins have a pretty easy homestand. I think is it the Angels and Reds?
6-game homestand, Angels and Reds. They also have then they come to Cleveland, go to Boston, and then they have the Marlins and Orioles at the end of the season. So Yeah, I mean, I think let's see, and the Royals, besides the Yankees, they've got after the Yankees, they go to Pittsburgh. They have Detroit at home, San Francisco at home, at Washington, at Atlanta. Both Minnesota and Kansas City have fairly favorable schedules the rest of the way. They're both playing like 2 tough series, and then
Well, and all 3 of these teams are going to have really interesting ends to the season. And I know we're like playing the schedule game here, but
yeah,
because the Royals get the Braves, who are battling with the Mets,
right,
and the Guardians get the Astros, who could, I mean, they could be battling with each other there for seeding or what have you. And
yeah.
then what was it, the Twins and Orioles?
Twins and Orioles down the
Which,
season. Yep,
I mean, the Orioles and Yankees are jockeying back and forth, which there's a lot at stake there. That's the difference between the 1 seed and the 4 seed. So
right,
that's going to be fascinating. I mean, there's a lot will be decided before that, but
yeah,
you're right. It's the biggest thing. Like this Dodgers series is, I don't know. Maybe it's a litmus test. It's tough because you're not seeing either team's best starting pitchers. But it's honestly more important to me is go sweep the White Sox. That's everybody else. The Twins and the Royals have been incredible against Chicago this year. Everybody has been
right,
pretty much, except the Guardians. They have
yeah.
not taken advantage, and they're 5-5 against Chicago. Whereas if they were 8-2 against them, like everybody else is, then this division would already be pretty much out of
Oh
reach.
yeah, no doubt. By the way, the White Sox shockingly won their last game. Remember, they have not won consecutive games, I believe, since early July. Do they beat the Red Sox tonight to have their first winning streak in 2 months?
I was going to ask you who's pitching, but I don't think it matters. No.
No.
I mean, I'm kind of excited to go there. I want to talk to fans.
Yeah.
As we talked about, like, why are you here?
Yeah.
Just to see the mood. I've been talking to some guys about being on a team like that. I mean, there's never been a team like that really, but being on a team where you lose 110 games, and I think a little different than the other sports because you play every single day.
Right.
When you are the worst team in the league, that's got to just beat the life out of you.
Oh my God.
Like, how do you have the mental fortitude to show up every day, get your ass kicked,
Yeah.
go home, and like you got to just be miserable for 8 months, and then just praying for the offseason to come, and then praying that you wind up on a different team the next year. It's
Here's
crazy.
another crazy White Sox stat. They are 26.5 games behind the Angels for the 14th spot in the wild card.
So they're eliminated.
Yes. Their run differential is negative 303. The second worst is the Rockies at minus 215. So they've been outscored by 88 more runs than any other team. And the Rockies are bad. Like the Rockies are going to probably lose 100 games. The Marlins might lose 100 or close to it. But
And the thing with the White Sox, they think the best draft pick they can have is 10th.
Oh, that is
I believe. And their farm system's not very good.
No.
Like there's no hope.
No, they're screwed for the next bunch of years. So one question I wanted to get into here, and we'll get into it in a second, is if this was Jason Lloyd and I were debating this yesterday on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. So I want to get your take on this. Who, the season ended today, what would the starting rotation be for the Guardians in the playoffs? But first, folks, I want to talk to you about the Game Time app. If you're thinking, if you need tickets to any sporting event, if you need tickets to a concert, a comedy show, whatever you're looking for, they've got you covered. In fact, I'm going to be going to Cincinnati for the Bengals and the Commanders Monday Night Football in a couple of weeks. And in the past, I would have bought tickets already, but what I'm doing instead is I'm going to wait till the weekend before because the prices are going to go down on the Game Time app, and I'm going to take advantage of that. And you can too. So don't go somewhere else. Go to Game Time. take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. There you go. All right, Zach.
You'll get to
So
see my guy Jaden Daniels.
that's going to be an exciting matchup, I think. I don't know. I'm curious to see Jaden Daniels in his first game. Do you have him in the UCSS league?
I do, yeah.
I got him.
Made me get 2 quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's right. I got him as my second quarterback in, I think, 2 of my leagues, maybe 3. I don't remember, but not in that one. You got him way. So the starting rotation, obviously, everybody's pitched well of late. Ben Lively did not pitch well in his last start. And yesterday we were discussing this in the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. What would your rotation be? Some teams go with a 3-man rotation in the playoffs. Some teams go 4. I am not a fan of the 3-man rotation. We saw what it ultimately did to Shane Bieber, and not Shane Bieber, Corey Kluber in the 2016. And I said this yesterday, and I'm going to say it every time I bring up Corey Kluber. It pisses me off to no end that people rip Corey Kluber for that Game 7. That is the most embarrassing, know nothing about baseball thing you could possibly do is to knock Corey Kluber, because for all the talk of Andrew Miller, who was sensational, they don't get a sniff. They don't come close to the World Series without Corey Kluber. He put the entire starting rotation on his back.
His ERA before that start in the playoffs, I think it was 5 starts before that.
Yeah,
was under 1. I mean, it was like if they win the World Series, he gets a statue.
Oh my God!
I don't think we can quite appreciate just how good he was. And you're right. It's Miller. I think had like 13. No, he had more than that. Maybe he had like 15 to 20 innings, and he gave up like 2 runs in the playoffs. He was sensational. Cody Allen doesn't get enough credit.
That's true.
He went 13 innings, didn't give up a run.
It was those 3. I mean, those 3 carried the whole pitching staff.
And as you point out, they had to do that because they were down to 2 9/10 starting pitchers. And this team doesn't have to do that. I mean, it's so weird. Like, we play this game so much, but if you would have traveled back in time, I think this speaks to like baseball and how much turnover there can be in a season. But so we're talking, like, if we're having a conversation back in March and we're saying, all right, let's say this team gets to the playoffs somehow. What's your playoff rotation? We're saying Bieber, McKenzie, Gavin Williams, Bybee, Logan Allen. Like, there's an embarrassment of riches here.
Yeah.
And if I would have said Matthew Boyd and Alex Cobb and Ben Lively, you would have thought we'd be talking about a different team.
Right.
So it's weird. Do we agree Tanner Bybee's Game 1?
Yeah, we do. So yesterday, I'll tell you what I said, and then you react and do whatever you want. So I said I would have Tanner Bybee Game 1. I would have Gavin Williams Game 2. I'd do Alex Cobb Game 3, and I'd do Matthew Boyd Game 4 instead of Ben Lively, even though Lively's been pretty solid all year. That would be mine. So what do you think?
I think I agree with you. The order is interesting. I'm trying to think of, like, is there a matchup where you'd want to change that? Does the schedule impact things at all? Like, are there guys you trust to pitch deeper into the game where you wouldn't need to be as reliant on your bullpen versus, like, if you only want Boyd to go through the lineup once, maybe twice, do you put him in a spot where it's before an off day so you can turn to your bullpen for 6 innings? Like, am I overthinking this? I don't know.
No, I mean, I think when it comes to the playoffs, you have to think about all those things. I don't think you're overthinking it at all. I was thinking that a similar thing in terms of, well, lefty righty. I mean, Matthew Boyd's a lefty, so I mean, I guess that depends who you're playing, right? I mean, and maybe, and it could be stadium wise, like who's the most home run prone. If you're playing the Yankees, well, maybe you want the home run prone guy at home. Although Progressive Field this year has been more of a home run park, but
but they can turn off the wind tunnel.
That's true. Wind tunnel, shut it right down. But Yankee Stadium, obviously the ball flies out, especially to right field. So that's if they're playing the Yankees, who knows what it's going to end up. But yeah, I mean the order. I guess Bibby's definitely pitching game one. Yes, we're on the same page in that. If the season ended today, I mean, between Williams, Cobb, and Boyd, obviously Boyd's pitched the best, but it's still not a lot of starts for any of them.
Right.
So
I mean, if Boyd and Cobb don't pitch well in LA this weekend, does this conversation change because of one start?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And am I overreacting to Ben Lively's last start? I mean, I just think Ben Lively, has the least swing and miss in him, and the least experience as a starting pitcher. Well, of the three guys you'd consider leaving out of the rotation.
Yeah, there's a way you could use him. I don't think I'd want him facing guys more than once.
No.
But he's never pitched this much. I mean, he's never had a season like this where he's been relied upon and expected to perform.
Yeah.
So I've wondered if he's just tired. I mean, it would
sense.
be understandable.
Yeah.
He hasn't gotten a break pretty much. He was a little late to start the season because he had the virus in spring training, which seems like lifetimes ago.
Oh, yeah.
I think I agree with you. What did Jason say?
Jason said he would start Lively instead of Boyd as the fourth starter.
Boyd's had 4 starts, and the worst one was he gave up home runs to Soto and Judge in the first inning and then locked in after that.
Yeah.
He's done nothing to suggest he shouldn't be in this. I don't know. I think it's certainly a fun conversation to have because it's complicated. I also think it's not a conversation you can have a confident answer in until you see more from, honestly, not even just those guys, but Williams.
Yeah.
We're putting Williams second because we understand what the ceiling with him is because we just saw it in Kansas City. But it's not like he's been doing that every time out.
No, he hasn't put together back-to-back good starts all year. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways it could go, certainly. But the exercise was right now if we had to make the decision. And so that's why I went with Boyd over Lively. And yeah, I think Boyd is, he's pitched really well. I mean, he has an 0.84 whip. Again, it's only 22 innings. But the fact that he's only allowed 19 base runners in 22 innings is pretty impressive. So I'm not putting him now. It would be interesting to what kind of role you would use Lively in. Would you put him in the pen? I mean, it would be weird if he wasn't on the roster at all. And he could be a guy you could go to as like a long man situation in the pen. Not that those guys get used very often.
Let's do it. So you got your 4 starters. So you have space for 9 relievers. So we have Clase, Cade Smith, Hunter Gaddis, Tim Herron,
Barlow.
I think Nick Sandlin would be in there. That's 6. Pedro Avila, I think, has earned a spot. Yep. They love him.
Yep.
That's
Eli
7.
Morgan.
What'd you say?
Morgan.
Yeah, I mean, so then it would be 2 spots for Eli Morgan,
Lively,
Ben Lively, or anybody else who we've seen or has been at AAA.
Again, we've talked about this. Tristan McKenzie in the bullpen. I don't know if they trust it, but
I know you're a big Eric Sabrowski guy.
Oh God,
keep forgetting he's on the roster.
Love Sabes.
But I also wonder. I mean, there's still time. For like an Andrew Walters at AAA, who's been sensational. I feel like they just don't want to have to put him on the 40-man roster yet. I don't know. There's some other, like Nick Enright's at AAA, he missed like 4 months with a shoulder impingement, but he's been incredible. His numbers are insane so far this season. He's only made, I think, 3 appearances since he came back from injury. But there are other options. It's just with those young guys who don't have the experience.
Yeah.
If you were going to have them be part of your playoff plan, you probably would have wanted them up here by now to adjust to the big leagues.
Yeah. In terms of the 40-man, I mean, couldn't they just put Carlos Carrasco on the 60-day? I mean, he's on the 15.
Yeah, it's not so much making space for them now. There are guys they're going to need to protect this winter.
That's true.
So, like, Walters doesn't have to be added to the 40-man, I think,
Mm.
until maybe after next year or even the year after.
Okay, so they're probably not bringing him up.
So he'll be in the bullpen next year, but you
Right.
just wanna delay that
Yeah.
paperwork as long as
Mhm.
you can. Franco Alaman, who was a guy who soared through the minors last year, had some injuries this year, and has been pitching awesome lately. Like, he was another guy who was in big league camp, and, um, like, they were talking very highly of him in spring
Yeah.
training, and he's been excellent when he's been healthy this year. So
And
they have a lot of interesting arms. I feel like you can never have enough. But again, like, I don't think you want to take some kid who's pitched in the majors for a week and throw him into a playoff game at Yankee Stadium. You would
I
want
think
them,
I think about K-Rod back in the day, and teams have
yeah.
done that with success.
But you give them some ramp up time, and
Right.
the
Bring
clock's
him up
ticking
now.
here.
Bring
Right.
him up now. By the way, have we talked since Kyle Manzardo came up? I can't remember.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, he came up
'cause he
Sunday.
was
That's right. He had the 2 home run Sunday. He had the 3 hits on Tuesday. So far, so good. It was good to see him in the field. But the reason he was in the field is because Josh Naylor's banged up. Have you heard anything on Josh Naylor?
he
I
was
know you're not on the
available to
road trip, but
he was available to pinch hit
okay.
that night. So
All right.
you
So
would
he's all
think
right.
he's fine.
Yeah.
But it was good for them to get Manzardo into the field. I know it
Yeah.
probably pained them to do that because they were talking like he was only going to DH.
Yeah. All right, let's get to some fan comments here, Zach. Okay, let's see. B. Skrill's great game last night. Oh, the football game. It was. So let's see. Sven says Stephen Kwan needs to step it up. If he was a young prospect, he would have been sent down already. I don't know about sent down, but he's been pretty bad for a while now. He's popping everything
194
up. He's
since the
completely out of
All-Star.
whack.
Yeah, 194 since the All-Star break. It's
Oh,
crazy. It's what did we say? Tyvus has to wear a toupee now because
yes,
um
because he's not even hitting 300.
right. It's yeah, I don't know what the solution is either. I tried to dig into the metrics to find something under the hood, but he's popping up more.
Yeah.
But the question is why? Why is he getting he's getting fewer fastballs, but there's nothing like jarring, obvious. Um and I do think it's one of those things where the deeper you get into it, the tougher it is to change your habits, to get out of your own head, to just get back on track. It's almost like he needs a week off or something. I don't know. Maybe he spent the off day like at the beach in LA and clearing his head, and
Yeah.
he'll come back looking like his old self.
Getting back on the West Coast. Yeah, hopefully
But
that'll help. I think
and
he will
it,
break
it's
out of it at some point.
it's encouraging that the offense has shown signs of life over the
Yeah.
last week or so without him, because he's the catalyst. Like, if he does get going, I think it just allows everybody else to breathe easier. Jose Ramirez then comes up with a guy on base all the time, and it's so beneficial. So they do need him. They I would say that, like, this team can't make a deep playoff run if he's still in this funk.
Oh, yeah. 100%. By the way, why is Tyler Freeman still on the roster? Do we have any idea?
Just a emergency for versatility purposes, break glass
I
if
would
you need to.
right now, and I've been talking about these guys for a while. I would send down Schneeman and Freeman, and I'd call up Arias, and I know Arias has let us down every time, but I give him another shot here. I'd call up Arias and Valera right now and send down Schneeman and Freeman.
Yeah, Valera can definitely help. I mean, the one thing, like, Will Brennan had a couple hits the other night, but it was also like it was like an infield hit and then a bloop that fell in that wound
Yeah.
up as a double that got under Melendez's glove. Like, it feels like he's not consistent. And I
No.
imagine Valera with the power potential
Yeah.
as even just like a part-timer in right field, I think would be beneficial for this lineup. But
Yeah. Well, Lane
yeah.
Thomas getting hot has helped, and obviously
Mhm.
Manzardo coming up and hitting. He's got to, he seems more comfortable this time around. Hopefully that will pay off down the stretch here.
Yeah, but that's the thing is, like, Lane Thomas has played so well lately that they've started using him in center against righties. So Brennan isn't
Yeah.
even playing all the time in the one spot where you'd expect him to play.
Right.
So it's weird. Like there's not like this neat divide of playing time. Like
No,
there's not
there is
like
not.
this is our lineup against lefties, this is our lineup against
Right.
righties. They haven't really done that.
No.
And I do wonder if that makes it tough for guys to get in a groove. Like there are some nights where I'm like, why is Noel not in the lineup?
Yeah. Sure.
Um, so I like Valera has been so bad against lefties and so good against righties. If he came up, it would be very obvious what
Right.
situations you'd want to use him in.
Robert says, I'm surprised Arias hasn't been called up yet. We just talked about that. John says Naylor and Kwan will be gone. We're a farm team for the Red Sox, Yankees, and Dodgers. All right. Well, there is some truth to that. What a bummer time of the year to bring that up. I mean, you want to yell about that in the offseason?
Also, the Red Sox are a weird inclusion there.
Yeah, right. I don't,
Manny Ramirez was 25 years ago.
And honestly, as good as Naylor is, I don't have a problem with them moving on from Naylor. I think there's replacements. I think he's going to age poorly. I think he's going to be one of those players that goes off the cliff quickly. Kwan, we're talking a number of years away from that. I don't know why we're worried about that. Sven says, I still trust Ben Lively. Giving up 4 isn't that bad if the offense is normal. Buckeye guy, I expect a competitive series between the Guardians and Dodgers, but I'm feeling we get swept. Let's see. John, I agree to put your best guys out there, and the only objective to win. Feels like we are short changing the one guy who has mostly been consistent. I don't care about mostly been consistent. I want the guys pitching the best right now. And right now, Ben Lively's pitching the worst. It's a combination of pitching the worst and having the worst stuff of the group. Like Cobb and Boyd are pitching better. Williams has been inconsistent, but he's got elite stuff. So when I factor all those things in, without being in the locker room, and you spend time in the locker room, but like Stephen Vogt knows these guys inside and out. So I don't know how these guys are going to react to it, but from an outsider's perspective, to me, Lively to the bullpen makes sense. Now, if Lively's great down the stretch and one of these other guys stinks, it certainly it'll change. But for now, I think we have our answer.
Yeah, there's a balance here between trying to get through September, maintaining your division lead. They've done a good job. They have not needed the bullpen a ton over the last week and a half.
Mm-hmm.
That's helped. There was a stretch
Big
there
time.
where it looked like Cade Smith and Gaddis and Clase were going to make like 80 appearances, and it was a little dicey. And then you're wondering, okay, well, how much will they have left in the playoffs? And if you make a run, then all of a sudden they're going like 95 innings.
Right.
And
But
it's dangerous. But they've been able to like take their foot off the bullpen accelerator a little bit there. So that's helped. But you're trying to, you need to make sure you have the optimal playoff roster, like the 26 guys who are going to give you the best chance to win a series. And that's not always going to be the same 26 guys who got you there. And it's just a fact of life. I remember years where there was one year where like they've made some strange decisions on their playoff rosters in the past. I mean, we remember Trevor Bauer started game 1 of the playoffs back-to-back years.
Michael Martinez.
Oh yeah. Well, there was one year where they carried like 3 catchers because Yan Gomes had rushed back from a broken wrist, and Chris Jimenez made the roster.
That's right.
And then they abandoned like Nick Goody and Zach McAllister and someone else, like 3 relievers who had been key parts of the bullpen all season. But that's just the way it is. Like, and so if you need to dip into AAA to get another reliever with electric stuff, if you need to dip into AAA to get Valera or Arias or whoever, like it's not always the guys who got you there who are the guys who will get you further. Right. And I think you have to balance between surviving the next 3 weeks and clinging on to that lead in the division, and also thinking about, okay, who gives us an advantage in a series, or is there a matchup we can exploit? So you got to be thinking both things.
Let's see. Connor says, I've watched Tristan in Columbus twice the last couple of weeks. He's getting shelled. I don't think he's ready to come back. I want to see him in the bullpen. Speaking of which, Colin says, what about Cookie in the bullpen? No, thanks. He's not going to be on a playoff roster.
He's out in Arizona rehabbing. So I don't know. Okay. James Karinchak's on a rehab assignment in Columbus.
Oh, is he?
You want to see him?
I mean, he's got great stuff, but I can't trust him. He's been out all season. He's a whack job to begin with. You never know with him.
The stuff is the question too. I mean, he's
Yeah.
just not had velocity all year. I
Right.
don't know where it's at right now, but
Yeah. I'm not with that. John says Boyd starts game 1. Colin says I agree with Bull about Naylor. Connor says the Lauder in person is an amazing sight. He sent one to Nationwide Boulevard that disappeared into the night sky. Colin, hopefully keep making this division lead bigger. Then we get to sit Quan and help him find out. Sven says we need Fry at catcher again. John says his slump started when he started trying to hit home runs. By the way, one other thing that sometimes people are confused by, I know you know this, Zach, obviously, but a lot of fans don't know this because it's confusing. Because sometimes you'll hear, well, a guy's got to be on the team before September 1st to be eligible for the playoff roster. He doesn't have to be, a player does not have to be on the major league roster on August 31st. They just have to be in the organization.
yeah, so you have to be on the 40-man roster by September 1st, or if you're in the organization, you can replace someone who's on the injured list who has exhausted their time on the injured list, if that makes sense. So, like,
Yes.
Carlos Carrasco's on the 15-day IL, but it's been at least 15 days.
That's right.
They can replace him with somebody else. They did that in 22 with Will Brennan and Bo Naylor to get them on.
Well, and they have multiple guys because Karinchak and Trevor Stephan have been on the 60-day since March. Shane Bieber's been on the 60-day since April.
Right.
Sam Hentges has been on the 60-day since July 11th, so his 60 days is just about up. So there could be 5 guys in the organization that are not on the 40-man roster that could potentially be added. It's just if you acquire a guy, if they picked up who got cut recently, I don't know, somebody got DFA'd and you picked him up now, he could play for you for the rest of the regular season, but he wouldn't be eligible for the playoffs. All right, what's your official prediction for this weekend, Zach? What say you on the Guardians? By the way, the Guardians hold in terms of making the playoffs, they're 9.5 games ahead of the Tigers and Mariners. So the playoffs, I don't know what is their, do you know their magic number for just the playoffs? And they're not going to have a champagne celebration for that, right? They're going to wait till they win.
We were talking about this, and my hunch is that they will celebrate a division title, but not a playoff clinch.
Right.
But I actually think that there would be some differing opinions on this. I could see members of the coaching staff saying, like the young players aren't going to dictate this. It's going to be Austin Hedges, who I think will say, we have bigger goals in mind.
Right.
We don't need to celebrate this yet. I can see some people on the coaching staff saying, like, you can't take anything for granted in baseball. We've been around, and like celebrate when you can. I think they'll hold out for the division. But yeah, they could clinch a playoff spot pretty soon.
In terms of this weekend, so tonight's a 10-10 start. You got to stay up late. Boyd versus Landon Knack, who's getting called up to make the start. Tomorrow, a 9-10 start Eastern. Alex Cobb goes, I can't remember. The Dodgers are TBD right now, but I thought I'd read something about
I think it's Gavin Stone.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Who's been in it up and down with them all year. Then Sunday, the Sunday game is at 4:10. Gavin Williams, also TBD for the Dodgers on Wednesday.
I think that's going to be Jack Flaherty.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why they're all TBD. Yeah, right. Flaherty, who they acquired. And then the Guardians obviously go to Chicago with the series starting on Monday. So,
how many home runs and how many stolen bases for Shohei Ohtani in this series?
Okay, so he comes into the series with 44 homers and 46 steals. I believe he's going to. Do you think he's getting to 50-50? Yeah, the home runs is going to be tricky. He's getting the 50 steals.
I think he'll wind up at like 50 homers and 53 stolen bases.
Yeah, which is just remarkable. And Jose's got obviously the 40-40 chance, which not many players have done either. But I'm going to say one home run and 2 steals for Ohtani this weekend.
That sounds about right. So Shohei Ohtani's first 2 home runs of his major league career came against Cleveland. Can you name the 2 pitchers?
Now, I feel like the way you said it, they're going to be like random dudes, but they're not. Okay, I'm going to say Cal Quantrill.
No, this was
Nah.
2018.
Yeah, that's too. That was a bad guess. All right, Trevor Bauer.
No.
No.
One is makes sense and the other is impressive.
Okay, so one, Josh Tomlin.
Josh Tomlin was his first career home run, 3-run homer. I remember that place was going absolutely bananas.
And the other, Cody Allen.
It was like the last time the Angels had something to root about. The other is Corey Kluber.
Oh, Kluber, yeah.
The very next day.
All right. He is fun to watch, I'll tell you. To be that athletic at that size and to still it's so weird. He's like having one of the greatest seasons ever for a hitter, the first 50-50 year. Oh, by the way, he's been until this year because he can't pitch. He's been an elite pitcher too. I mean, it's just insane.
That's the thing. Like imagine I don't even know what player to compare him to, but
right.
Like Willie Mays in his prime or something decides, oh yeah, next year I'm going to pitch and I'm probably going to be a Cy Young candidate.
Yeah, it's like if Willie Mays and Bob Gibson were the same person. And maybe that's a little over the top, but because he hasn't been a Cy Young pitcher, but he's not been far off.
No. Yeah. Really, honestly, the thing holding him back usually is the innings total, which is only because he's got other things to do the rest of the week.
So if Willie Mays and Mike Mussina were a player, right? Like, I mean, it's just crazy. So I'm looking forward to watching him play against the Guardians this weekend. Hopefully they can keep him in somewhat check. Obviously, you got to deal with Mookie Betts, who's fantastic. You got to deal with Freddie Freeman. Teoscar Hernandez, who the Guardians know well from his time in the American League, is obviously a really good player as well. All right, guys, we're out of time. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Zach, great stuff as always. I know you're going to Chicago on Monday. Are you going there Monday?
Very early Monday morning, so we'll talk to you from, I don't know, the river or something.
And I look forward to finding out what you learn from the 82 fans that are going to be at this game. I mean, Guardians fans should go to Chicago. It's not a far trip. You can get great seats for cheap prices, probably.
I have a feeling it's going to be – those are going to feel like home games.
Yeah. Yeah, and they have to sweep that series. But anyway, we'll talk about that more on Monday. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. Make sure you subscribe. We'll see you next time on the Ultimate Cleveland Guardians Show.